Greetings, folks. It is time for another Let's Play. And now this is where Kirby's first adventure with copy abilities came from. Well, the previous game we looked at, well, it covered Kirby's first foray into the gaming scene, as in, well, it introduced the series to us that was much simpler than it looked. This little story explains what's going on with the Fountain of Dreams. And because the Fountain of Dreams is making everyone lose the ability to dream and have nothing but nightmares, it is up for, well, Kirby to go and stop whatever King Deity is doing. So, yeah. It's time for Kirby to embark on an adventure to restore the dreams, stop everyone having nightmares, and of course, stop King Dedede from doing what he was doing. So yeah, this is a remake of Kirby's Adventure, and we'll talk about Kirby's Adventure in due time. As you can tell, I've already 200%ed the game twice at this point. So, of course, we are going to start on File 3. We start at Water Drop. I do not know the names of the other save file names at this point, and I couldn't find them anywhere, not even on Wii Kirby, and I don't know where to look. So if anyone in the comments can give me a look at that, I will surely appreciate it. So yeah, being a remake of a faithful remake with a huge uplift in graphic fidelity, well, there are some pluses and there's some minuses for this remake. So we are in Vegetable Valley, and your first instinct is to swallow an enemy. However, unlike in Kirby's Dreamland, if an enemy has an ability, Kirby will copy that ability. And in this game, there are copycats debuting from Kirby's Superstar on the Super Nintendo. Here's the description for Beam. In Japan, they got more exciting descriptions where they were actual, like, Japanese calligraphy and such with exaggerated Japanese onomatopoeia. It's way more exciting than what we have here. Beam. This beam's like a whip. Whapish! Beam it! So yeah, back then, every ability was one button. Like, almost every ability only did one thing, and that one thing it did very well. But I'm going to say this right now, during Kirby's early days, abilities kind of went through growing pains because through Dreamland to Dreamland 2, having the more experimental side of things with less abilities and more relying on combining abilities with certain animals, well, we'll get to that game in due time. It was my first Kirby game, but this isn't. Coming back after playing Forgotten Land, I realized how certain Kirby games have aged worse than others. So let's go in here. Look, what we have here is the UFO. There are several secret rooms with the UFO ability, and let's just say this is one of the few abilities that do more than one thing. So you can tap B in place to do essentially a beam, but you can do it from anywhere. You can charge a shot to fire a laser. Like, you can do a weak laser if you hold it shortly, or you can hold the button down to fire a charge shot. Wow, I'm so lucky I copied the UFO. I can do 4 different moves. It all depends on how long you hold B. So yeah, during the time of this game being made, well, some of the aesthetics feel like this is the beginning of, well, Kirby's more weird age. Kirby's transition to the GameCube and Game Boy era was certainly a strange one because it was going to be a bit more ambitious. Like, during this time, Sakurai was already on his way out with developing the Kirby series, and what you saw there was my biggest issue with this game, more on that. If it wasn't this game, it was definitely a third party taking the mantle for the next Kirby game. What we went through here is a mini game at the end of each course. the better you time your button press, the higher you'll go. Time it perfectly, you'll get a free 1-up. And during this time, Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland was made at the time of, well, Kirby Right Back at Ya, or Kirby of the Kirby of the Stars anime. And that anime can tend to be a bit divisive from person to person. When people are referring to the anime, they're either referring to the So Bad It's Good dub of by the 4Kids cast, where the reason why people would enjoy it is because of certain voices given to certain characters, King Dedede being one of them, and or they're referring to the more superior, but not by much, Japanese dub, which had more scenes and less censorship. And again, anything by 4Kids, you know something is going to be censored. I mean, I still enjoy watching Sonic X from time to time, but there's some things I won't defend, and no, I'm not going to rag on Chris. Introducing the Crash ability. Yep, these are screen nukes. What are screen nukes good for? Well, I'm not going to show it in this room, but in the next. Screen nukes are good for this. Use them once, everyone on the screen is gone. And screen nukes would also be a staple of the series. In fact, they appeared in the first game as an item Kirby can swallow and spit back out immediately through the mic. The Crash ability is basically the second of that kind. And of course, good observation and surroundings will just good observation and such should allow you to find stuff like healing items and secrets at your leisure. But now we have the sword ability. What I did was press minus or select if you're playing the GBA on the GBA or through the NES. The sword ability, starting with Superstar, gains its legendary Legend of Zelda reference with the green cap. I can't lose with this sword. If they zig, I cut him. If they zag, I cut him too. In this game, the sword is one of those abilities that does two things. You slice, and then when you do it in the air, you spin. It's also one of the few abilities you can use underwater. Now, my least favorite thing about this game, the abilities. It's not that, well, during this time, this is a remake of the game that had the first time using the abilities, but the abilities suck. Some are better than others, but I'll talk about certain abilities that just plain don't work. But before we do any of that, we should at least talk about this, the minigames. They're going to be different from here compared to Adventure, and we'll get to them in due time. But this is Bomb Rally. This is basically a game of hot potato, playing swinging a bomb around with frying pans, and basically you have to be the last one standing. Whatever is blown up is replaced with a bubble. The bubble enemies give you the ball ability, and despite its looks, the ball ability is not a joke. I'll talk about the ball ability when we get to it. And of course, later on in the match, it's going to get difficult, and you want to time your little button presses more. And before you ask, no, I am not going to be able to show off multiplayer, at least not yet anyway, because I don't own a cartridge of this game. I only own the Wii U Virtual Console version of this game. I'm not going to spend too much time on the minigames and such, and I apologize if you don't want to see restore points being used for Quick Draw, but I'm just going to show off Quick Draw and what would happen if you win it. Anyway, if you get hit, you lose your ability. That's my biggest gripe about it. These Kirby games are ripe with having Kirby be absolutely frail. I mean, back then, I guess I see the reasoning, but now, not a fun thing. It's not a fun thing at all. In later Kirby games, I don't know if how early this applies to the later games in the series. Certain abilities, sometimes Kirby has to take a good strong hit to have his ability taken out of him. But in this game, you're getting hit once, especially with an HP system like this, and I'll gripe about that one later, it's like basically getting punched in the nether regions. And speaking of abilities in Growing Pains, Burning, Flame Tackle time, who's gonna stop me? This is a game that has 2 abilities for the same element instead of homogenizing them into one ability. Everyone knows the fire ability for having both the ability to flame dash and the ability to spew fires. In fact, most people who play Kirby nowadays are more sharing praise for Kirby's more modern adventures. There's even those that still will defend Star Allies, and I don't think Star Allies is a bad game, it's just disappointing compared to its last release being Planet Robobot. But, and I'll say this, if you want to play Star Allies and you're in the rare occasion that you have a few friends together, oh, how I wish Star Allies had an online update. It's a really good time with friends. I do think that Star Allies does get really fun when you have a bunch of friends together in the room with you. Oh, to live in a pandemic-less environment. But abilities like this, because all the abilities are single button, certain abilities have 2 abilities for one element. So there's the ice ability for ice that's around you, and the freeze ability for ice in front of you. And there's fire for fire in front of you, and burning for the flame tackles, and this is a favorite speedrunning technique. Also new to us is the museum. Don't like the ability you have? Well, you can discard your current ability and get an ability for free. This guy will never attack you unless you touch him. You just need to discard your ability here and swallow him. But of course, that's not all. Now, each world is going to have at least, I want to say, they have 6 levels each. And we'll get to showing off the Spark ability sometime soon. I keep wanting to show it off, but I just always have a different ability at the time. This is Mr. Frosty. And if you know Mr. Frosty, you know that he's got a new reputation because of Kirby in the Forgotten Land. Let's swallow him and absorb the freeze ability. Stop, come no closer. I'll chill you to the bone. Freeze ability is more about just basically turning yourself into a giant freezing projectile. It's best if you use it while you're moving, so that way you're landing, enemies around you will not tackle you. You turn anything that you touch with the freeze ability to ice. So, yeah. This type of thing was the one move with the freeze ability, this thing. Basically, it's turned into a movement ability where if you just mash the B button a lot, you can just basically turn yourself into a gigantic ice projectile and such. And this is the most I've kept it so far. And yeah. Well, anyways, invincibility candy. Just go crazy. Run into anything while you have it. Because this is to introduce that, and the level is over. Just like that, we are already done with 4 levels in one world. This might be a shorter Let's Play. I say might, at least compared to Ape Escape. That Let's Play is already gone to like almost 20 parts. I'm still editing at the time of recording this. But this world is pretty darn short, only having 4 levels as opposed to normal 8 or 6. I mean, let's start the first boss. And if you've played Kirby's Dreamland, well, guess what? It's time for the series staple to return. This is Wispy Woods. That was Wispy Woods. Wispy Woods has a few more attacks, so I'll probably do a proper boss fight with him without an ability. Like certain bosses, I'll show off without the ability, but I'm probably not going to enjoy it. Excuse me, how is Kirby dreaming if there are no dreams? Also, Waddle Doos cannot hold hammers. Why aren't there Waddle Doos with hammers? Anyways, before we go any further, let's fight that boss again, only without the ability. Oh, wait, I can't fight him again. Well, we're just gonna have to record that at a later point now, shall we? Hello there. This is future me, at least according to the first couple of episodes. We're gonna be showing the bosses in their full length this time rather than cheesing them. So, yes, I am doing this in extra mode because, well, I know I'm already gonna cheese the bosses in normal mode. This is Wispy Woods. Wispy Woods is extremely simple, and ignore that. Anyways, since I'll be showing the bosses in full since I didn't get a chance to show them, this is Wispy Woods. Wispy Woods is extremely easy, even without an ability. However, what makes Wispy Woods remotely challenging is the fact that you have less than half health. But, yeah, that's Wispy Woods in full. So, to give you an idea how easy this thing was, it didn't take me that much longer to defeat it without an ability as opposed to with. So, I'll pass it back to past me. Anyways, so here we are at Ice Cream Island, level 2, the water level. And what we see here are these Knock Knock Nuts. I'm not sure if if Knock Knock Nuts were introduced in Forgotten Land. But since we have another enemy here, we get the Parasol. You remember that little umbrella you see in Super Smash Bros. Melee? The sun shines on this parasol of mine, where I walk, enemies balk, and I float gently down. This ability is one of the few that has more than one use. You basically use it as a bit of a weapon, but you can also just hover around, and that little umbrella can also protect you from stuff, like a shield. This is more of a defensive ability. And if you know where to place it above your head, it can serve some seriously good use. Unfortunately, I just run face first into a hothead. Yes, what? They're starting to affect me too. Those are Scarfies right there. And Scarfies were a lot harder to hit in the original than in the older Kirby games. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say that. Like, a lot harder to destroy, because sometimes when you just hit them once, they just go demonic and try to kill you. At least as far as I remember. It could be just me getting better with age, or just me knowing how to counter them. Yeah, be careful around these those, I think they're called bombs? Yep, that's how good they are. And those wallabies are pretty annoying. Anyways, another ability to show off. Tornado! And this one's a speedrunner's best friend. Spin, 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 spin! Spin, 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 spin! Spin, spin, spin! Ah! Yep, it's time to spin around, and this ability only got better as the series goes on. At least with the few games that this ability was in. It's even in Kirby's Return to Dreamland, which, that's not what I meant to press. Yep, that's the Wii U menu. It's already pretty late as I'm recording this. But as the series goes on, there ends up being better uses for them. But in case you want any proof that I'm recording this off of real hardware, I mean, there you go. I am not running this off of Simu. Level 2. And let me just show you, let me show you what that was the true power of the tornado. And those little hog enemies can be pretty annoying. Anyways, we cannot break that block with the tornado, and I want to show off another ability, the Needle. And this is also one of the few abilities that changes Kirby's color. Hands off. Here, pointy spikes. There, pokey spikes. And this basically just does this. Like a big giant cluster of spikes Kirby turns into. And this is another ability that got better with the 2.5D Kirby games, the modern era. Because along with abilities getting more use, well, you can do the math. In this area, instead of copy essences, they have enemies trapped in walls so Kirby can swallow one of them and take their ability before doing a mini-boss. This is Grand Wheelie. And Grand Wheelie is one of the few mini-bosses in our adventure to basically pose a threat. He's also one of the few enemies that has an ability that's stuck to a boss, the wheel. And in Kirby's for a long time, the wheel was just okay. It's pretty good for ground movement, not so good for combat, because if you know what you're doing, then the wheel can be pretty fun, but like, it's not exactly one you use for combat. There were abilities that were used for movement and abilities used for combat, and that was definitely an ability used for movement. And let's just say once the wheel was reintroduced through Kirby Triple Deluxe, how many of you were happy that the wheel in Triple Deluxe can allow you to jump? Now we're going to enter level 3 of Ice Cream Island. And this level already has a giant pit that we're supposed to float over. But of course, usually that little wallaby is never in my vicinity. But over there is another area where you can get the UFO ability, but I'm not gonna go for that. I'm just gonna mind my own business. At least if none of these fish would get in the way. I don't know the names of all the enemies here. Let's just say get used to seeing Gordos in places where Gordos are basically the mascot of enemies in inopportune places. But there's a one-up opportunity. If you had the UFO ability after the fact, well, that's where you can get it. Anyways, that's Meta Knight, and these are his goons. Please do this without an ability. You can swallow the enemies, or you can suck up the enemies and just fire them back at his other troops, because doing it with an ability, while sure you have the false security of just having that extra power, it takes 2 hits to defeat these enemies, as opposed to just sucking them up and spitting them right out at other enemies. And there's a health field. There's just one problem. You see those fish right there? Yeah, I'm not doing with that. Anyway, time to enter the portal, Kirby. Time to enter this, and well, end the level. And that's about it for for now. I think that should be a good moment to stop, as we're already 20 minutes into this. So if you want to donate, there are a couple links in the description below, and if you want to follow the series, well, the buttons are right there. There, just click it, hit the bell, and you'll be on your way. But you don't have to if you don't want to. Take care of yourself, and well, I shall bid you adieu.